One of the things that I hear in discussions with the audience earlier and in some other environments is how do you take a new unit and should it be a separate unit, an agricultural unit? In other words, how should it be structured? Should it be at the head office level with specialists handling a centralized credit review function and then basically deals or credit proposals being generated out in the field, and then ones that are outside of policy or outside of the lending limits being escalated forward? Do you build specialists regional? Do you do it? What's the best organizational structure? And then the next question would be is, how much does that get impacted by your existing core banking packages? Because the policy, procedure, and methodology, data entry and data gathering for your risking and all the rest of it, you're already being focused. You already have an existing system. Now you have to develop a new one and start modifying it. So what's the methodology? Set it up, modify it, come up with an integrated plan, or go step by step?
You know,
and morph into it. Or is it, a perestroika, shock treatment, and you get into it?
The answer is, in the first question, is you use the existing systems and build your workarounds as far as the systems are concerned. And when you've made enough money to invest in a new system, that's when you ask for the modifications and the changes. That doesn't mean you have all the money, but you have a progression of income that you have that is built up. So you know that you have a steady income flow coming in month and month, and then you can write off this investment. You have a definite write-off plan of the new investment on the system. So on the investment side, but structurally, pretty much what we are working with is a combination of centralization and decentralization. So we have a central policy team which gives out the broad policy of the way the loans will be developed, packaged, and sold out there. And then we have a decentralized underwriting team which receives the proposals from the relationship managers, and they have graded approving authority and powers. So within the policy and with the select deviation matrix, they can approve. Above that, it comes to a regional level and then a central level.
In your process before going forward, how long would it take for a definitive no?
A week.
On 1 week from a customer coming in for an application to a no?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
In our case, I would say that it would vary, but from my experience is that what we do is we fit onto the existing system, meaning that, and you probably will experience it, is that from an agribusiness perspective, while we appear big on the outside, when you come internally inside the group, we're actually very small. So we cannot really change the process internally. So what we then do for agribusiness is that we fit into the normal process or existing products. So we don't have specific agricultural debt products, but we modify internal debt. So the vanilla debt products will modify that to fit what we're looking for in terms of the repayments, what can be done. So that's really overall what we do for agribusiness. But the key then issue is that how do you then work out a system in where you're able to modify the products to suit the client's needs. So that's ideally what we then structure to do, that it then fits in the overall existing structure, but we come and over that superimpose the agribusiness. So that it's more of like a matrix that you'd have working, and you then get agricultural support on areas that require specific support. Take, for example, you go into credit, on the existing credit process, come in and establish what would be an agricultural credit mandate, meaning that you alter you provide for agriculture, but also set up a process in which you will work out to approve your agricultural credit application and what the flow would be. What we then find is that we build an agricultural specialization based on the size of the business. So as we have a lot of agricultural credit applications, then we deem it necessary to have a specific unit that looks after agricultural credit applications. Where there are few, we then try and ensure that we build in a few resources, but without necessarily having a full unit. That's from a perspective of managing our costs. And as the business grows, we then have a process in which we then start expanding on that to ensure that it's then able to carry on the benefits. What I experience is that, or what's always going to be a challenge is that you then have a challenge based on how your performance is measured or what are the drivers of the business. Because then from an agribusiness perspective, you then come and find that you're neither a product owner nor a relationship owner. And that tends to be a big internal challenge. And the question is then how best to handle it. And the key question has always been that we try and look at it as a global perspective or an umbrella under which we support the entire business, meaning that as I engage with the different units, I'm neither part of corporate nor part of retail, and I try to find a way in which I support the entire business as one unit. So from the outside, I would describe agribusiness within our environment as the one area that can actually give you a complete bank view as opposed to any of the other areas in terms of our common support across the business.
Let me begin by saying that we do not hire the best people for rural banking. We hire the most appropriate people for rural banking. It's very important to understand that we do not necessarily need the best. And it starts from the top level. To begin with, a financial institution has to be very sure whether they would want to do agri-lending or not. I firmly believe that if the top management or if the board, they are not too sure whether to do it or not, they should not do it. Because we have seen in Pakistan that there are banks where they try to do it with the wrong people and with inconsistent policies. One year they want to do it, the other year they don't want to do it. So you have to have a long-time strategic horizon to actually come into this business. Because on the face of it, it's a very small business as of today. But if you look at the strategic importance, it adds to the value added, it adds to the corporate lending, it adds to the consumer lending. For example, if we in Pakistan are producing cotton, and if we finance a cotton farmer, our corporate banking is going to finance the textile mill. Our SME is going to finance a ginning mill. So there's a whole chain. Now it is very important for a bank to come up with a very clear-cut strategy for this, whether they really want to do it or not. Followed by that, I think it is very important to have a very clear-cut strategy of when this unit of agri-lending will be dependent on other units and at what time it should become independent. Like in our case, we have evolved from a small agri-lending unit to a rural banking division. So, of course, when we were an agri-lending unit, we were dependent on many functions. And it was like dovetailing and being consistent with what their priorities were. But because the strategy was clear and the significance of this business for the management was clear, so building block by block, we were able to gradually increase the importance of our business. For example, we grew from about 2% of the total book size to 3%, then to 4%, and now we are more than 5% of the total lending of the bank. And of course, now we are like generating deposits as well for the bank. So during this evolution, there is a specialized, of course, the business is specialized, but within the risk architecture, there's a specialized risk manager for agriculture. Within the operations, there's a specialized operation unit for agriculture. And when we talk of the branches, in branches, there's kind of a hybrid structure whereby the front-end field officer, he reports into the rural agri manager, and at the same time, he reports into the branch manager as well. Now, because that branch is located in a rural area, it helps us to actually look into the other business avenues as rural banking.
I agree with my colleagues, but let me focus on the organization.
Yes.
So, to establish an organization, first you have to define your customer. What will be the segmentation? So, where do you put farmers within the bank? So if you're a small bank, I recommend to establish a separate group within the bank for agriculture, with marketing, with lending, with sales team. But if you are a big bank, of course, you are limited with the existing system.
Yes.
So the first question is, where will you settle this agriculture organization within the bank? Except the countries like United States, like Netherlands, whose number of farmers are small and rich also. I prefer for developing and less developed countries to settle the agriculture under the retail group or SME or small business banking. So the first task is to establish a marketing and a lending unit, since we have to first establish the kitchen to create products and services to sell. And then we need an accurate set of policy, a lending policy. So the second issue is to establish a lending unit. For example, in our bank, we announce our credit policy for all segments at the beginning of the year. But for the sectoral environment and the competition, we have to revise this policy document within the year. For example, we have a 40-page credit policy now for 2013, and 2 pages is for agricultural lending. And after that, I'm not sure if everybody has a separate marketing and sales group. I don't want to jump into the discussion that if it's true to have marketing and sales together. It has advantages and disadvantages according to the sectoral conditions, according to the competition environment. But if you have a separate marketing and sales group, the third issue is to establish a sales team, special dedicated sales team for agriculture. Starting from the headquarters, then if you have regional directors, regional managers, and then reaching to the branch. It's my point.
Excellent, excellent. What I find interesting is that even though you come from all different institutions across a broad geographic area, your experiences are similar, very similar, and this is very educational.